Attention, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Road Safety and Vulnerable Road Users in Low and Middle Income Countries. I'm Elaine Farrell with the Transportation Research Board, and this webinar is co-sponsored by the World Road Association, or PIARC. TRB will provide 2 professional development hours to professional engineers who attend the entire webinar session. At the end of today's webinar, you will be able to describe human factors guidelines for a safer human-road interface, discuss fundamental safety topics that affect vulnerable road users, and describe safety practices outlined in the PIARC Road Safety Manual. For instructions on retrieving your certificates, please review the reminder email you received this morning or the follow-up email you will receive after the webinar. And just a reminder that for PDH credits, you must register and attend as an individual. For groups, only the person who registers and attends this session is eligible to receive a certificate. TRB will report your hours within 1 week of this webinar. You can contact Reggie Gillum with any questions about receiving credits. Attendees are automatically muted when they join the webinar. However, attendees may ask questions by using the GoToWebinar control panel, which appears on the right-hand side of your screen. The questions you type in are not visible to other attendees, but they are sent directly to TRB and the moderator. Please type in any questions you have about troubleshooting, software, or audio, or questions about the presentations here. We encourage you to type in your questions at any time. After all presentations are completed, the moderator will read the questions that he has received out loud. If you don't see your control panel, it may be minimized on the right-hand side of the screen. Click on the orange arrow button to access the control panel. Attendees often ask how they can obtain a copy of the slides. Please review the reminder email you received this morning, which includes a link to the presenter slides. There's also a link on your control panel under Handouts. And after the webinar, you will receive a follow-up email that contains a link to the recording of today's session. And now I'd like to introduce today's moderator. John Milton is the Director of Transportation Safety, Quality, and Enterprise Risk at Washington State DOT. John?
Good morning.
And with that, let's give things over to, I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
And today's participants are going to be Patrick Malajak from the World Road Association with PIARC, Per Andersson from the Swedish Transport Agency, and Lorenzo Domenichini from the University of Florence in Italy.
All right, thank you, John, and I'm going to give Patrick control to show his presentation.
Let me see. Thank you, Elaine. Is this working? I hope it is. Hello, everyone.
Yes,
my name is Patrick Malajak, Secretary General of the World Road Association, also known as PIARC, which explains the French accent. I will run you through what PIARC is, what we do, and what we do as regards road safety in particular. So what is PIARC? We are a non-political, non-profit association established more than a century ago. Our aim is to promote international cooperation on any issue related to roads or road transport. We've been recognized by the United Nations, and we hold consultative status on the Economical and Social Council. Our vision is quite ambitious, is to be the world leader in the exchange of knowledge on roads and road transport policy and practices within the context of integrated sustainable transport. You may not have heard of us, but we are recognized for the quality of our outputs. What we do is really facilitate knowledge exchange on a world basis. We're aimed at practitioners more than research. Our members would be more companies, industries, government, road administrations, more than academia, for example. We mobilize international road and road transport experts. We do provide a network, so if you're looking for an expert on pavements, you could just contact PIARC. And if you want to exchange with your peers, we provide the network as well. We facilitate the dialogue among peers through our committees and seminars. That allows you to showcase your national achievements if you want to. It also enables you to learn from others and to build networks from which you can ask any question to anyone across the world. And we steer that through commonly agreed objectives, which are report and deliverables. Nowadays, more than ever, we believe that international dialogue is necessary because it's efficient and cost-effective. If you want, I refer you to an excellent report prepared by the Federal Highways Administration of the USA, called Leading on the International Stage, that outlines what they think they're getting out of working with the association. Very important message, our outputs are open to all and are widely accessible. Our reports are available for free as a download from our website, same with our workshops and seminars and Congress proceedings, for example. We have 121 national governments as key members of the association. This is quite extensive, and we have members from 140 countries total. These can be regional authorities in some cases, public and private members such as industry, research in some cases, and individual members. We have working groups that currently regroup 1,200 experts from all over the world. In some countries, such as the USA, we have national committees. These are local organizations which facilitate national exchanges on road and road transport, which promote our work locally, but also help us liaise with national experts and issues. In the USA, this is AASHTO, whom I'm sure you're all familiar with. We have a key focus on low and middle income countries. This is really part of our DNA. We have several processes that are implemented. We include their specific needs in our own activities. We involve experts from those countries in the activities of our committees, and we organize seminars locally in low and middle income countries. And we establish regional working groups in some cases, such as in Latin America. Budget support is available from us if experts from those countries want to be involved. Our outputs are quite diverse and numerous. So you have here reports. We publish between 40 and 50 reports over a 4-year cycle. They're all available for free from our website. You just need to register on the website and you can download whatever you want. Over the last work cycle, 2012-2015, we produced about 40 technical reports. And over the next work cycle, the current one, 54 reports are expected. Our website is here, PIARC.org. There you will find different ways to access all our reports called Knowledge Base and Library, an excellent, I would say, online road dictionary that helps you translate technical words between several languages, as well as detailed information on who we are, how we work, our seminars, our congresses, and all of that. The dictionary is really something unique. It holds several thousands of words, technical words about roads and road transport. The main languages there are English, French, German, Spanish, as well as Portuguese, and many more. It's available online, free of charge. You can just go to PIARC.org and click. Our international seminars are aimed at exchanging knowledge with international experts and low and middle income countries. Over the previous cycle, we organized more than 35 of those. Those presentations, the outcomes of that, are available from our website. About 30 are planned over the current cycle as well. You may have seen our magazine. Well, I hope you have. It's called Road Roads. It's a quarterly magazine. It covers emerging road and road transport issues. It's available in 3 language versions: French, English, and Spanish. It's available in print as well as online. The readership is about 6,000 copies in more than 140 countries. You have here on the screen the specific website that allows you to go and check the articles one by one. Online manuals, you will hear more about that later. They are a recent development. They provide very easy access to knowledge. 4 manuals have been developed by the association. One on road safety, one on road network operations and intelligent transport systems, one on road tunnels, and the 4th one on asset management. 2 more are planned. They offer comprehensive, state-of-the-art references on their given topic. They are designed to be easy and attractive to use. They're free of charge. They include lots of case studies in different countries at different stages of development. They would include lots of links to our reports and as well as other detailed technical material. And you can even download chapters or even print them one by one. We provide software as well. You may have heard of HTM4, which is a tool for the analysis, planning, management, and appraisal of road investment as well as maintenance investment. That software tool, HTM4, was developed over the years, more than 30 years ago, actually. This is when it started, with numerous stakeholders, including the World Bank. is distributed through a company called HGM Global through a contract with PIARC. GQRAM is more niche. It's a tool for managing dangerous goods transport in tunnel. It helps you make the right decisions. Well, it all started with congresses. International Winter Road Congresses are the recent ones. The first one took place in 1969 in Germany, and the latest one took place 2 months ago in Gdansk in Poland. These congresses focus on maintenance and road operations in winter, traffic information, user service, levels of service, de-icing, all of these topics. But we started with the World Road Congresses. Actually, the first ever World Road Congress was held in Paris in 1908. And we've been holding more or less a Congress every 4 years ever since. These are aimed at sharing knowledge and experiences on roads and road transportation all over the world. The last one took place in Seoul in 2015. The next one is scheduled for Abu Dhabi in October 2019. Our activities are guided through a strategic plan, 4 years. When we have 1,200 experts from all over the world, it's very useful to have a guidance there. That's what we call our strategic plan. The current one was developed through a very detailed process under a very good colleague of ours, Jeff Pagnati from the USA. He was leader of the Strategic Planning Commission. It was formally approved by the Association's Council in Seoul in November 2015. And we've consulted road organizations, road administrations, all the members of the association, of course, as well as stakeholders such as the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, and other transportation mode organizations. It spells out our expert structures. Technical committees are constituted for the full 4 years, and committees C.1 and C.2 on road safety are the ones who organize the webinar today with you, as well as task forces and special projects with more focused, more nimble, if you want, and regional task forces that allow us to explore topics of particular interest to certain regions, especially if they have many developing countries. The 5 themes that we are into in the strategic plan are management and finance, access and mobility, safety, infrastructure, as well as climate change, environment, and disasters. If you compare that with previous years, what we've done is elevate environment-related issues. That's 18 technical committees and 4 task forces in total. In each case, our plan establishes functions, topics to be addressed, as well as expected results. So here you have the 2 committees that we have on road safety. C.1 addresses national road safety policies and programs at the strategic level, and C.2 addresses design and operations of safer road infrastructure. So road safety really is key for the association. Presented briefly earlier are online manuals in general. The road safety manual here at roadsafety.piarc.org/en was designed to help countries at every stage of infrastructure development fulfill road safety objectives. It includes new thinking on road safety, such as zero deaths on your roads, the Vision Zero, and offers a clear argument on why adopting a safe system approach is crucial for every country. It's really a living tool. So if you have any case study that you would like to share with us, for example, don't hesitate and send us a message. More importantly, the road safety manual was acknowledged by the UN in a resolution last year. It's free of charge. It's available in English. French and Spanish versions are being developed with the World Bank and will be available this year. Key principles for each of the topics are included and discussed in all of these sections. We have lots of case studies and links to detail the technical material, our reports, and AASHTO reports, for example. We refer to a global steering committee. Those people, those organizations that you have here on the screen help us identify where we want to go with this manual and how we may want to improve it. This steering committee currently includes the World Health Organization, the UN Economic Commission for Europe, the European Investment Bank, the World Bank, the African Development Bank Group, the Asian Development Bank, the ITF, International Transport Forum, and the CAF, the Development Bank in Latin America. Beyond manuals, PIARC, of course, has a long history of publishing reports. If you look at safety, what we have in store, and these are only the latest ones, are 12 reports on lots of topics related to roads. For example, the first one, the role of road engineering in combating driver distraction and fatigue, and road safety risk, of course. The second one, human factors guidelines for safer man-road interface. And then the last one on this screen, best practice for road tunnel emergency exercises. So we cover really a wide range of topics. 6 more reports are being developed and will be made available next year at our Congress in Abu Dhabi. National road safety policies evolution, as well as guidelines on road safety audits, for example. We also hold seminars, as I was saying earlier. We've held seminars in Marrakesh, in Chile, in Tehran, in Rome, Lisbon, Portugal, and the next ones are planned for Beijing later this year, and probably meetings in the USA in 2019 and in Malaysia as well. So if you allow me to conclude, I would like to say that PIARC is really about sharing information, and road safety is one of the key topics for us. And this is why I'm really thankful for the USA's TRB to allow us to develop in partnership this webinar. And I would like to thank my colleagues from committees C1 and C2 who will present later on all the knowledge that we have to share. Thank you very much. Elaine, this is back to you now.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. The next presenter is John Milton.
Thank you very much, Elaine. And my name is John Milton. I'm from the Washington State Department of Transportation in the U.S. That's all the way Pacific West Coast of the United States near Vancouver, Canada, for those of you who don't know. I am with Technical Committee C1, National Road Safety Policies and Programs, and we are responsible for the Road Safety Manual, PIARC Road Safety Manual. So what I'd like to talk about today is why a road safety manual, a little bit about the structure of the manual and the organization and working structure that we have for the document. So why road safety manual? We all know that there's a global crisis of death and serious injury in road crashes, and we continue to see in the recent years an increase of the number of crashes. And this is not just in the US, but throughout the many countries that make up PIARC. And what we know about road safety is it's a largely preventable issue. We've adopted as part of the Road Safety Manual the Safe Systems approach, and we believe that adoption by all countries is the way to go. Safe Systems approach basically says that we need to do what we need to do to improve road safety regardless of fault. We just need to go out there and do the right thing. We also want to talk a little bit about leadership and institutional capacities are vital for results within road safety. And this is an urgent development priority. And as Patrick had mentioned, the United Nations has adopted a policy, and I'll talk a little bit about that on behalf of the Road Safety Manual. So that's good recognition that road safety is a major issue. Our foundation, as I said, was the Safe Systems approach. And this is a shift from crash prevention in general towards the prevention of death and injury. So focus on what we're really trying to achieve with safety is not just getting rid of crashes, but getting rid of those most severe types of crashes that we often see and that often have the greatest impact on our road systems. We also need to directly address the needs of vulnerable road users and others. It's vitally important. In many locations, we see a great deal of fatal and serious injuries to motorcyclists, to pedestrians, to bicyclists, as these are very important modes throughout the world in trying to protect and keep from harm. We also want to encourage safety to be designed into developing road networks rather than being considered an afterthought. Go in there and do the right thing when you have the opportunity to do so, and not think about the problem as soon as it becomes a problem. In other words, do what you do very early in the process. So part of our thought process is to bring in the Haddon matrix. The Haddon matrix basically thinks of crashes in terms of what are the factors related to crashes. There's a human element, a vehicle element, and an environment element that all pertain to crash. Also, there are different phases: the pre-crash phase, the crash phase and the post-crash phase. What's the important takeaway here is that road safety needs to articulate and bring into the concepts each one of these factors and each one of these phases to be most protective of those road users that we're trying to save and prevent from injury. A little bit about the structure of the road safety manual. What you'll find is it's a very accessible document. As Patrick has said previously, it's on http roadsafety.piarc.org/en. And the road safety manual is available to anybody who wants to use it. Just register and go out and work on this. As many of you know, this was our first edition of the road safety manual. We're in the process of updating the road safety manual, not a rewrite, but just some additional information and some updating of the information that exists. The road safety manual is broken into 3 pillars, essentially. Pillar 1, road safety management. Pillar 2, safer roads and mobility. And Pillar 4, the safer road users. It's also broken into different parts. The first, strategic global projective, consists of chapters 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1, scope of the road safety problem, which lays out essentially what we see internationally and some of the key developments that are occurring in road safety globally. In part 2 of the road safety management system, we have 4 chapters, excuse me. Chapter 3, the road safety management system, lays out road safety management in a how-to kind of fashion with a number of case studies that are very appropriate for use by low, middle, and higher income countries. The safe system approach is discussed as well, as again, we believe that the safe systems approach is the most appropriate methods to reduce fatal and serious injuries. Chapter 5 is on effective management and use of safety data. Safety data is becoming an increasingly important aspect of road safety. Understanding that data when you have it, being able to analyze that data and evaluate it for the purposes of selecting appropriate countermeasures is a very, very vital aspect. We also recognize that not all countries have the same amount of safety data, and we provide information to do when there is lesser data or lesser approaches that you may have. For instance, use of IRAP or US RAP, Asia RAP. They're all different types of tools that can help you get information out into the users as safety practitioners for effective management and use of safety data. We talk about road safety targets, investment strategies, plans, and projects. Coming from the top level, doing great planning leads to great choices in the types of projects you program and invest in. And that is important to having a successful transportation road safety management system. In part 3, we look at planning, design, and operations. Chapter 7, roles and responsibilities, policy development and programs. You have to have good policies. You have to know who's doing what in terms of their roles and responsibilities within a safety program to be able to do it effectively. Chapter 8, the design for road users, characteristics, and compliance. In a bit of that, we'll be talking later as Lorenzo discusses human factors interaction with the road user. Chapter 9, infrastructure safety management, policy standard guidelines and tools. And Chapter 10, assessing potential risk and identifying issues. Again, one of the most critically important things, if you are to be most effective in doing road safety, you must be able to identify those locations that you expect over time will have serious and fatal injuries, and be able to identify and diagnose what are the contributing factors to those injuries and fatals. Chapter 11 talks about intervention, selection, and prioritization. Having made the right analysis and diagnosis of the road safety issue, you can then select an appropriate countermeasure and prioritize within your transportation system, given what you may have as available funding or process within your individual country or organization. Chapter 12, monitoring and evaluation of road safety interventions. Not all things work equally well in different places. So monitoring and evaluation of how we've done and what we've done out on our road system is critically important. One of the things that we've done in terms of the chapter organization is we look at key messages for managers. We provide key principles in each one of the topics. So each area will have a message for the managers that'll have a key issue of topics. We discuss and explain the key principles and have case studies in each one of the chapters. In the second edition, we're going to be looking at placing a lot more case studies into individual libraries so that we can update them periodically rather than having with them in the text of the document. We think this will be a great improvement overall to the Road Safety Manual. We provide links to detailed technical material and other references. The beauty of using an electronic system as this Road Safety Manual is the ability to link and to go out and identify and look at other materials. And we want to make it easy for you to do so, and that's why we've done a lot of hyperlinking in the document. We also have a ability to identify getting started, making progress, and consolidating activity. So it helps lay out sort of the process that is necessary as you go along your journey to road safety. A little bit about the road safety management development process. We did the first edition of the Road Safety Manual and was identified in the 12-15 timeframe as part of the strategic plan. Mike Griffith, who was part of the USA, was on the task force at that time, and PIARC made a contract with the scientific team, ARRB, which was led by Blair Turner of Australia in the development of the first edition. As Patrick also mentioned, a resolution was adopted by the General Assembly in approving global road safety. We think this is a wonderful endorsement of the need to address road safety, but also of the value that the Road Safety Manual provides to those around the world. And this is just the Road Safety General Assembly resolution in English, French, and Spanish. The second edition, as I said, is in progress. We plan to deliver that document in Abu Dhabi in 2019. We are working with two of the International Technical Committee, C1, Policies and Programs for Road Safety, and C2, Design and Operations of Safer Road Infrastructure. And we are developing, as I said, new sections and case studies for inclusion in the second edition. We also set up a steering committee for road safety, and that steering committee is essentially helping us and guiding us along the way as we make selections. Just to give you an idea of International Technical Committee, the policies and programs, we have 74 members from 5 continents. We work in 3 languages, French, English, and Spanish. Our working group leaders are from Paul Delure from Canada, Rainer Keinig from Austria, myself, John Milton from the United States of America, and Blair Turner from Australia. Our chair is Roberto Arditi from Italy, and Kirsten Graf-Landman from PIARC is our advisor. International Technical Committee 2, Design for Safety, is Design and Operation for Safer Road Infrastructure, is Professor Wong, from Malaysia. The secretary is Lucy Wickman from UK, Holland from France, and Ana Mondes Diaz from Mexico. And here's our steering committee members, and I will dispense with reading all the names, but Malaysia, France, Canada, UK, Indonesia, and Italy. Our stakeholders are numerous. Chair is Roberto Arditi, and Rainer and myself, John Milton, are the reporters for that steering committee. And our working method within the technical committees is that TC1 essentially is responsible for development of the Road Safety Manual and has assigned independent activities to working group TC.1, the working group being the Road Safety Manual. The working group will work essentially with TC1 and TC2 and our individual stakeholders as part of the steering committee to develop the working manual. And this is just another form essentially of how the steering committee forms with us. The steering committee is built to identify what updates and upgrades should be made and organize and plan the corresponding work. Essentially look at the content and see if we need additional experts. They're also part of the ability for us to oversee the work and organize review of deliverables, which is an ongoing process right now, and they liaise with the General Secretariat for the addition of the web pages and proposal for software evolutions. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, and thank you very much. Elaine?
Thank you, John. Our next presenter is Per Andersson from Sweden.
Good evening to you all from Sweden. I'm Per Andersson, and I'm the project manager of National Building Regulations for Roads and Rails here in Sweden. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. According to the World Health Organization, nearly half of those dying on the world's roads are vulnerable road users. This proportion is much greater in low and middle income countries because of the greater variety and intensity of traffic mix and the lack of separation from other road users. Compared to other road users, the vulnerable user group is particularly exposed to injury as they are not protected by vehicle shell. For years, pedestrians, cyclists, and moped riders have been considered in PIARC's guidelines on road safety. Here it comes. But considering the acceptable high number of vulnerable road users' deaths and injuries, the PIARC Technical Committee, Design and Operation of Safer Road Infrastructure, decided to review and update its guidelines, checklists, and manuals, emphasizing on the safety of this group of users. In this report, vulnerable road users, diagnosis of design and operational safety problems, and potential countermeasures, a definition of vulnerable users were proposed. The report also includes a listing of infrastructure safety treatment solutions to mitigate risks for VRUs subgroups along urban and interurban roads. The definition focuses on road users who are at great risk because of insufficient physical protection or because of relatively high speed difference with potential conflicting modes. Through this definition, a specific attention is given to four main groups of road users, that would say pedestrians, cyclists, riders of powered 2- and 3-wheelers, and light-duty farm vehicles or animal-drawn vehicles. For the ongoing period, PIARC took the task to investigate and develop current materials related to vulnerable road users. Outputs will consist of materials for inclusion in the road safety manual that Jan was talking about, in forms of case studies and new updated material. We will also produce intermediate deliveries in forms of reports published on the PIARC website. And last but not least, we will produce training and presentation materials with focus on users in low and middle income countries. And this is the Technical Committee Design and Operation of Safer Road Infrastructure in working mode. And yes, that's on the right hand side, it's me in the yellow shirt. I will give you some highlights of our work, which by now is halfway into our working period. The first highlight is regarding safety aspects and challenges for motorcyclists. In the Southeast Asian countries, motorized 2- and 3-wheelers are the dominant transport mode on the roads. And as you can see in this picture, the proportion is close to 75% in these countries, as compared to the proportion in the high-income countries, which is much less. The Euro countries, for example, is about 7%. With this high proportion of motorized 2- and 3-wheelers, it's not surprisingly that the proportion of fatalities of vulnerable road users are high in these countries. The proportion of fatalities of VRUs in these countries were close to 75% during the year 2013, as compared to the proportion in the high-income countries, where the Euro countries is about 43% and Australia and New Zealand is about 30%. We can also see from statistics from Spain, where the proportion of motorcycles is about 9% of the total vehicle fleet, but we can see at the same time that motorcycles are overrepresented in the casualty fatalities accidents. In nearly 1/4 of all fatalities in Spain on the roads, the motorcycles were involved. We can also see from international statistics that the efforts to reduce fatalities for powered two-wheelers has been less effective over the years than for other groups such as pedestrians, bicyclists, and car drivers and car passengers. In Spain, as for other countries, there are three main areas for improving the safety for motorcyclists. The first, of course, is ensure safer conduct for motor, including the use of helmets. The second is to increase the safety of the roads with focus on motorcyclists. And the third is to increase knowledge concerning the accident rate of motorcyclists and their mobility. And in our PIARC group, we have chosen to focus on how to increase the safety on the roads with a motorcycle perspective. The bullets in this slide is highlighting the key issues our working group are focusing on from a motorcycle safety perspective. As we're just halfway through our work, I do not have any details of the group's outcome, but these are the bullets that we're going to use. The second highlight is checklist for safety and quality inspection of pedestrian infrastructure. The aim of our working group is to show the benefits with checklist for safety and quality inspections of pedestrian infrastructure, and experience show that it will give a comprehensive and a systematic on-site review of pedestrian infrastructure in order to increase the pedestrian performance. The walkability checklist will give a quick and rough check of the whole pedestrian system. It will also give proof whether general requirements are fulfilled, and most importantly, it will clarify the responsibilities of the stakeholders and can determine which countermeasures that are needed. The third and last highlight in this presentation and our work is statistics on vulnerable road users, focus on the single accidents. This picture shows traffic fatalities and seriously injured by road user group from Sweden during the year 2016. And we can see that in the Swedish transport system, 32% of all fatalities were pedestrians, cyclists, and moped riders. The same group had a 75% proportion of people with a permanent medical disability of a level 1% or more, as you can see in the right pie here. And in Sweden, we are defining the serious injury. Serious injury is a physical injury that the victim will not recover from in a reasonable time and might entail lifelong consequences for the person afflicted. In Sweden, a pedestrian accident is only part of the official statistics if the accident is involving a collision with a vehicle. That means single pedestrian slip, trip, or falls are not currently in the official accident statistic or in the national road safety targets. But in Sweden, we do have statistics on reported pedestrian single fall accidents from emergency hospital. And we can see that these accounts for 6% of all fatalities in the transportation system and 43% of all seriously injured with a permanent medical disability of a level 1% or more. In this picture, which is new on the right side of the slide, we can see that 2/3 of all seriously injured people in Sweden with a permanent medical disability of a level of 10% or more were pedestrians, cyclists, and moped riders. And from these, we can see that single fall accidents of pedestrians account for 1/3 of all seriously injured with a permanent medical disability level of 10% or more. In-depth studies on causes of seriously injured cyclists shows that nearly 80% of single accidents, which you can see in the left part of this slide, of these single accidents, 44 can be assigned to operation and maintenance, and 16% to design of infrastructure. For single accident assigned to operation and maintenance, we can see that almost 80% are assigned to slippery conditions, and about 15% to uneven road surface. From this study, we can also see that about 15% of the seriously injured cyclists referred to single accidents are caused by winter condition, slip on snow or ice. In-depth studies on causes of seriously injured pedestrians from falling accidents show that 96% are single slip, trip, or fall accidents, as you can see in the left part. Of these single accidents, nearly 80% can be assigned to operation and maintenance, and 10% to design of infrastructure. For single accidents assigned to operation and maintenance, we can see that almost 75% are assigned to slippery surface condition, and about 20% to uneven walkway. From these studies, we can see that about 50% of the seriously injured pedestrians referred to single accidents are caused by winter conditions and the rest by non-winter conditions. Our working group for vulnerable road users has put out a survey to the PIARC stakeholders to identify if there are data and findings regarding fatalities and seriously injured cyclists and pedestrians to support or challenge the Swedish findings presented earlier. A secondary purpose of the survey is to ask if any country, government, and/or road network manager has specific requirements on the road or walkway surface in order to prevent or reduce the number of seriously injured cyclists and pedestrians in the transportation system. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Pierre. Our final presenter today is Lorenzo.
Hello to everybody. Lorenzo speaking. I am a professor at the University of Florence in Italy, and I deal with the construction, road construction and safety. And I am an Italian representative in the PIARC C2 Technical Committee on design and operation of safer road infrastructures. Today, I will introduce you the topic of human factors in road design and operation, and how this concept can be included in the activities concerning road safety audit and road safety inspections. PIARC is addressing the topic of human factors since 2007 in 3 periods. The first one from 2007 and 2011 under the chairmanship of Joachim Wolprecht from Germany. Then the activities continued in the period 11-15 under the chairmanship of Mike Greenlag in the United Kingdom. We are dealing with the same topic of human factor under the chairmanship of Professor Wong from Malaysia. All the activities that has been implemented in PIARC has the main leadership of Dr. Sibyl Bith, a diplomat, a psychologist from the Intelligent System Transfer in Germany. The activities that has been conducted in PIARC gave the opportunity to produce several documents concerning human factors. The first one you can see on the slide, Human Factor Principles of Spatial Perception for Safer Road Infrastructure. With the same cover, it has been published a second document, Human Factors in Road Design, Review of Design Standards in 9 countries. This document analyzes the current standards for road construction in 9 countries to understand if, or to check if human factor principles are currently included in the standards. Then you have already heard about PIARC Road Safety Manual. The Road Safety Manual deals with human factor in the specific section concerning road infrastructure characteristics. And the last one, the last document that has been published by PIARC is this one, the Human Factor Guidelines for Safer Man-Road Interface. So within PIARC, a very important attention has been given to this topic. Of course, in the United States, the same topic is dealt with in different documents and publications. And I remember the NCHRP document report 600, Human Factors Guidelines for Road System, and the latest Highway Safety Manual that has been issued in 2010. Or both the documents deals and consider human factors as an important topic to be considered for improving road safety. Factors has different definitions in the documents I have been referring to. I do not go through the single definition given by report 600 of or by the Highway Safety Manual. You can read it in the slides that has been distributed. I just want to look with you at the definition that has been given in the PIARC Human Factor Guidelines, the last document that has been published. And because this is an important aspect, the term of human factors refer to the stable, natural, psychological, and physiological threshold limits that contribute to operational mistakes in vehicle handling. Human factor does not include, this is important to understand it, does not include human behaviors and performances. Human factor has nothing to do with personality trait like aggressiveness, the will to violate traffic rule consciously, mistakes caused by drugs assumption or aging. Because human factor is a professional term that has been coined around 1930 by the industrial safety engineers to address the general and stable subconscious reaction of common system users and excludes temporary individual conditions. So within the general framework that that has been considered dealing with road safety and taking care about the 3 different point of attention, the driver, the car, and the road, human factors deals with the interaction between the drivers and the road. And so study which are the influences that the drivers that the road has with the driving behavior. Human factor is the approach that PIARC considered is somewhat different from the other approaches because it refers directly to a problem of man-machine interface. The man is the driver and the machine is not the vehicle. The machine is the road that moves in front of the standing driver, like in a driving simulator, according to the driver decisions. And the driver decisions, mainly the speed and the trajectories chosen, are the results of the driver perception of the road environment that dynamically change in front of his eyes according to the speed and the trajectory that the driver has chosen. So it's a loop. And within this loop, one question has to be answered. Is driving a conscious or an automated process? To which percentage the road user behaviors is controlled by conscious control of acting and decision making, or by the infrastructural features, so in an automatic way? A research and a study that has been performed in Germany looking about the causes of 1,500 technically inexplicable accidents revealed that the conscious control of the vehicle is take care only of 15% of the time, of the driving time. The infrastructure by 70%, and the weather and car condition 15%. So the reaction of the driver of the environment, road environment in front of him is the reasons for almost 70% of the accidents occurring on the road. And so I think that you know these pictures very well. It has been taken by Highway Safety Manual and deals with the contributing factors to vehicle crashes. And in this slide, it has been considered that the roadway factors keep the responsibility of accidents in 34% of the situations. But perhaps this number, this figure, is subestimated, because the interaction between the drivers and the roadway, if you consider human factors, perhaps is higher. Just an example. In the central picture, you can see a road, a red car running along the road. Something happens. There has been problems with getting the trajectory, and at the end, the car hit it against a tree, which is the interest of all the accident investigations that are dealt with. The interest point is the tree, is the point where the car hit the obstacle. So it's something that is an approach that is damage-oriented, and all the road engineers that deals with accident and deals with road safety will probably answer the question, how can we improve road safety in this case? And the answer could be cut the tree or if environmental problem doesn't allow this, protect the obstacle with a safety barrier, for instance. This is a damage approach, a damage-oriented approach. It is not a human factor procedure. The human factor has nothing to do with the point where the crash occurred. If we are dealing with human factor, we are interested in the first step of all this chain of event. And we are interested in understanding why the red car have had problems of keeping the trajectory. What happened at the moment in which first the driver made an operational mistake? A stimulus came from the road, causing him to misunderstand something. And if the stimulus and the operational mistake is not corrected, a driver mistake occurs, and if a driver mistake is not corrected, the accident occurs. So we have to change the point of interest when dealing with human factors. We change the approach from a damage-oriented to a pre-accident-oriented, a safety-oriented approach. What has been the reason, what has been the causes of the stimulus that caused the operational mistakes? Okay, physiological experts and scientists say that more than 100 psychological, neuronal, and sensory-motor stereotypes explain foolish or unreasonable action. I just, to explain this aspect, just 5 examples I will give you. First, what we call inattentional blindness. This picture has been given to radiologists, asking them to evaluate if an X-ray of a lung to find signs of tuberculosis. And 75% didn't see the monkey that was integrated in the picture. They didn't see it. Why? The pictures include this because they were looking for something else. A second example, as everybody knows, the athletic curve is counterclockwise. Why? Because the human brain better function going to the left and not to the right. This is another aspect that is inside the human being. I mean, this is how the human being act. A third example, a figure ground effect, the mimesis. The one example from the first years of last century, the design of Rotherhithe Tunnel in London, and the tunnel was used by horses, and to avoid the horses, to prevent the horses to run to the daylight, they included in the tunnel 2 bands in order not to allow the horses to see the end, the light at the end of the tunnel. Why this? Because the mammal says that if you have a straight line, you go faster to the end of this. And this happens also on the road course. another example, optical illusions. This is a work from an Italian artist down in the hill. It's a flat, of course, it's a flat floor, but it seems that the woman is inside the well. And all these examples, just to understand that there are many actions that our brain makes spontaneously, unconsciously. But the question arises, what has this to deal with road safety? Well, in the PIARC activity, the topic has been addressed from an engineering point of view, looking to take care of this new point of view that comes from a psychologist approach. And three main rules has been considered. The first one, optical guidance. The second one, spatial perception. And the third one, driver expectations. The optical guidance, the first rule, says that when dealing with road design, provide enough anticipation time. Give enough time to perceive and adapt to changes. As far as we say that the driving activity is mainly an unconscious activity, if you have to allow the drivers to understand that they have to change their driving behavior, they have to have time. And so we have to give at the minimum 4-6 seconds for anticipating and to allow decision and to allow the correct reaction. Spatial perception, you have to design the road landscape, the field of view, the driver's field of view. Offer sufficient amount of bright color contrast to avoid monotony. Ensure reliable optical guidance and orientation. Avoid optical illusions. And the third rule, dealing with human factors, are the rule that calls for pre-programming driver behaviors. Road design with you have to design roads with consistent road characteristic in a logical sequence. Offer short distances at a minimal effort for vulnerable road users. Respect habits, automated subconscious behavioral patterns. So these are the three rules, and to allow to understand better which is the importance of these rules in designing an operating road to improve safety, some examples I will introduce you. First of all, the optical guidance, the first rule. In the sketch, you can see at the right, you have a red car, and then in the upper portion, something exists that require to make a specific maneuver, for instance, an obstacle, and so you have to stop the car. Most of the road design standards request a visibility length of equal to 2-3 seconds. So the current road standards require for this anticipation time, but this is not enough. If at the end there is not an obstacle, but there is an intersection, the maneuver that the driver has to do consists in changing speed to understand that the road requires the drivers to reduce speed, and to allow this, in additional is required. So this is why the first rule has been called the rule of 4-6 seconds. This is something that we have to consider. We do not have to make the driver, we don't have to surprise the drivers. And this is just an example. A road modification. I mean, this is the straight white line is the existing road, that the dotted that goes to the existing intersection and the grade intersection and three-leg intersection. The agency managing the road decided to change the intersection and to construct a new roundabout, so that you can see on the upper portion of the picture. And so the entrance in the roundabouts has been changed, making a bend, and then allowing the drivers to consider the existing the change of the infrastructure, having a distance that has been considered taking care of a reaction time of 2-3 seconds, so without considering the anticipation time. And what happens in this modification design? Happened this one. I mean, at the white existing road is a uphill up to a crest, and then after the crest there is the change of the layout of the road. And if you look at 4-6 second anticipation time, that as the human factor first rule requires, your driving position is the one that has been taken from for the pictures. You don't see the roundabout, and so you cannot consider the different to change your driving behavior because there is a roundabout after the crest. So the anticipation time is missing at this road design. Spatial perception deals with optical illusion. It's something that the dynamic Gestalt has been studied a lot. You can see the picture. What you see? Two faces or one vase? Well, this happens also on the road. Optical illusions can occurs also along the roads. And this is an example. This is a very nice Christmas card I received, but the gantry sign is not complying with the HF rule of spatial perception. Drivers, looking at this not symmetrical structure, will have problems of lane tracking, and they will move.
Lorenzo, I don't know if you can hear me. We seem to have some interruptions with your audio. Okay, there we go. Lorenzo, are you able to hear me?
Hello.
Yes, okay, we can hear you now. Thank you.
You are hearing me?
Yes, we are now.
Okay. We are hearing me. 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 Okay. We are
We might have just lost you again.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, please continue. Thank you.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. And so, an example, I found a recent nice example of how a misleading induced. This is a motorway, and the red point is an change between two different motorways, the A14. The situation is larger than the A14 run is in the Bologna City Ring motorway that runs parallel to the A14. The interchange has been changed between A14, A13, and the Bologna City Ring motorway. The two carriageways of the Bologna City has been moved from the sides of the A14. And what's happened? The geometrical layout of this section is in the north section is exactly the same of the south section. But looking at the accidents, we can see that in the north sections there are a less number of accidents than in the south section. And so we have similar geometric layout, and but the accident frequency is higher in the south section than in the north section. And so we wanted to understand why this can happen. And we made an inspection of the motorway, and we found this. In the location where all those accidents in the south sections occur, the situation is this. The motorway is the yellow surface and runs through like this. And the frame, the external reference guidance line that the driver has, are the concrete safety barrier that has been undersigned with the red line, and a acoustic inverted L-shaped acoustical barrier. The acoustical barrier and the medium concrete safety barrier in the medium has the same layout, has geometrical layout, while the road surface has a different layout. So some pictures that we took looks like the same. This is a top view of the same situation. So arriving on the Bologna Ring motorway, there is a straight line. This is the acoustic barrier. And then going ahead, this is the landscape the driver has. And the references, the guiding lines of the safety barrier and the acoustic barriers are on the field of view of the driver much more consistent than the road itself. The safety barrier, as you see here, you have two lanes and an emergency lane. Then this is a ramp, goes and goes inside the motorways. Then going ahead, the ramp additional line close, and the emergency lane is again reconsidered in the section. The top of the acoustic barrier, the vertical line, is at the edge of the carriageway between the emergency and the slow lane. We go ahead, and we can see now that the edge of the acoustic barriers is no more at the right side of the lane, but this is at the left side. So the road course changes the position between the two references, and the drivers may decide about the trajectory to be considered while driving, looking mostly to the more important reference guiding lines that they have. And in this case, the most important reference is the safety barrier on left and the acoustic barrier on right. They follow that geometrical layout, not the layout of the carriageway, and then a lot of accidents occur. So it is not a problem of a geometric problem. It's just a problem of organization of the field of view of the driver. So we have to choose to change this situation if we want to improve safety. And so this is the other section. So how, in the meanwhile, I mean, the modification requires a lot of time, design time, and construction time. We can consider a possible countermeasure based on human factor to reduce the influence of the acoustic barrier, of the optical misleading guidelines. And so we can improve driver guidance, considering a different color in the carriageway, improving the optical density of the frame of the ability of the
Lorenzo, I think your audio has gone out again. I don't know if you can hear me. In the meantime, while we're waiting for him, I'm going to administer a poll just asking everyone. Hi, Lorenzo. I don't know if you can hear me. Right now, the audience is participating in a poll.
Hello.
We were just waiting for your audio to come back. When they're finished, I'll close the poll and we'll see your slides again. Sorry about that. Okay. Are you still with us, Lorenzo?
Happening? Yes, I'm here.
Okay. It sounded. I apologize. It sounded like you were breaking up again. But now you sound clear again. So I'm going to close the poll, and then just really quickly here let people see the results and. Okay, and now we can see your slides again. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I tried to close rapidly my presentation. May I?
Yes, please do. Thank you.
So just few more examples, and this is one for as far as the third rule, PIARC rule of human factors problems, driver expectations. And to understand what I mean is, you can look at the photo, and there is something strange in this photo. But if you don't see it, don't worry, I say it. The pre-programmation of your brain doesn't allow you to see it. 99% of people doesn't see it. And the problem is that this finger should be a thumb, but you don't see it before. Your brain is conditioned by the need, real or supposed, to act promptly. This induces us to go directly to the conclusions without having all the necessary information. So you have to you keep this in mind while designing roads. And the situation of a situation that is wrong is this photo coming from India, a motorway from the motorway from New Delhi to Jaipur. This is a motorway, and people that drive inside the motorway is expecting to have a road environment that allow speeds coherent with the motorway environment, but they cannot do it because there are a lot of pedestrians, a lot of different situations that doesn't allow you to go to run with high speeds. So this is a road that has a lot of accidents. Why? Because this is not according to the third human factor rule. The driver expects something that the road doesn't give him. A long straight with a very sharp bend at the end. The drivers do not expect that such a sharp bend, and do not reduce the speed in due time. How to improve road safety in this situation? Perhaps just mind the optical density of the field of view. I don't know if you can understand what I mean, but this possible allow driver to reduce in due time the optical density, and so application and we are there. Len?
Thank you, Lorenzo.
Hello?
Yes, thank you. We now have plenty of time for questions. And Lorenzo, unfortunately, yes, unfortunately you were going in and out again. But we'll go ahead and start the questions, and hopefully we'll be able to hear you when you answer them. John? John, as a reminder, you are still on mute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elaine. And it's terrible when you start talking and you're still on mute. What I'm going to do now is we go through some of the questions. There's a number of them that have come in, and I will take them essentially in some level of priority order. One of the first things that we'll do is we'll try to spread them around to each of the individual organization people as we can. One of the first questions that came in is, PIARC Road Safety Manual suggests the procedure for road safety audits. And yes, there's a discussion. This came in from somebody in India. That there is a discussion about road safety audits as part of the highway or the road safety manual. It is included in the road safety manual, and there's some ongoing work to update that section. I know there's a lot of international work as well on road safety audits. To the extent that we can, we're going to be including that in the next update of the road safety manual. Now, a question to Patrick. Patrick, there's been a number of questions that have come in on people participating or joining in the organization PIARC. Could you go ahead and answer some of those? Do you accept individual membership?
Yeah, thank you, John. Yes, we do accept individual members. Anyone is welcome, really. That's totally open. Send us a message at info@piarc.org. What this means is that you will become a member of the association. This is not the same thing as becoming a member, an active member of a PIARC Committee on Road Safety. If you want to become a member of a PIARC Committee on Road Safety, and this means contributing to reports on vulnerable road users or human factors, for example, then you have to volunteer, and this has to be approved by the road director at national level. But this is totally possible as well. Please contact us, info@piarc.org.
And Patrick, just to follow up to that point, how is it possible to participate in the UAE conference next year? Well,
actually, it's open to all. So when registration opens later this year, you will be able to register as a participant. That's easy. You may also be an exhibitor if you choose to. If you want to submit a paper, that's all right as well. It's really welcome. Sorry. At our last Congress in Seoul in 2015, we had more than 7,000 posters, if I'm correct, and we welcome speeches and posters and presentations in our technical sessions. For that, you will need to submit an article in our call for papers. That will be open next month in May.
Okay. Per, I had a question for you. How do you consider the use of technology in road safety for vulnerable road users? Have you thought about that? Is there anything you can offer?
Can you be more specific?
The use automated technologies, technological systems for crossing, anything like that.
Yeah, well, according to my knowledge and people working with this, I mean, quite a big load of the fatalities and injuries today are caused by wrong errors by the drivers and like that. And if you get a fully automatic vehicle in level 5, as they speak about, it will of course take off all the mistakes and errors by drivers and pedestrians or whatever, not pedestrian, but at least for the drivers. So if we can get it working, we would definitely see a drop in fatalities for or crashes with vulnerable road users. So, but we're not there yet. So let's hope we can have a good development in the future, so we can have it quite soon. Was that an answer? Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that there was a question also on, and I'll take this question, and that was, do you know of any developing countries with a strategic plan on safe roads, ITS? And there's a couple of questions that came in for that. We do know that there's been World Bank information on ITS in developing countries, and Tehran, Iran has been doing something. But Patrick also highlighted the fact that the ITS committee B.1 is doing work on ITS for low and middle income countries. And Patrick, do you have anything to add to that? That would be great to do so.
Thank you, John. We have lots of feedback on national road safety strategies. There's a few of those. And what's important to highlight is that it's best if those strategies are comprehensive and go across the board and do not stop at ministers' barriers. So, for example, it's really important to include ITS, as is mentioned here in the question, infrastructure, education, enforcement, and all that. This is through such comprehensive approaches that you will be able to reap the benefits of the safe system approach. That's for one. We also know of some countries that maybe are not that super advanced from an economic point of view, but have ITS strategies. That's the case of Iran, for example. So Iran, they're very involved in ITS strategies, but they've also even translated PIARC's manual into Farsi, if some of the participants are interested. And our committee, B.1, so not a committee on road safety, but a committee on ITS, committee B.1, they have a focus on low-cost ITS applications. Therefore, this will be about the use of smartphones and other cost-effective technologies in support of road network operations. This will be particularly relevant, we hope, for low and middle-income countries. This report will be available at the end of 2019. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you, Lorenzo, and this is on how can you get transport agencies to consider anticipation time, since current emphasis is on perception reaction time of a short 2 to 3 seconds. It's more of a technical question. I hope you can answer that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The anticipation time is something that we have to look at to improve road safety, and there is no up to now there is very few examples of road standards that consider it. In Italy, for instance, we have just few situations in which we allow for an improved 6-second distance from a special critical point that can be a ramp, exiting ramp in the motorway. But very few examples we have and the PIARC publication concerning the standard audit in 9 countries revealed that this is a missing point. I mean, we have to consider it in the design, or also if actual standards do not include them. So is that in a safety audit, the safety expert can recommend in some situation to increase the visibility considering this point, for instance. But there is not a real standard up to now.
Okay, excellent. There was a number of questions that came in on data, and one of them was, which were the tools mentioned to get data on countries that do not have good data collection? I mentioned the US RAP tools, IRAP, EuroRAP, AsiaRAP. These are analysis programs that are available, and I did put a website out on the response to all, so that is available for you. The other question that I had, and hopefully I am analyzing this right. So, how do you calculate volumes of traffic in communities with limited technical resources? I think that was the question. What we often do in those cases where we have limited technical resources, we may use range of estimates based on land use, or at other times potentially extrapolating or interpolating data to the extent that we can. When you don't have any data at all, it is sometimes valuable just to make a range of estimate type calculations, and it may be different than what you expect, and you can adjust over time, but it is a good starting place. So let's see what else we have here. You know, does PIARC provide support, hands-on training on road safety recommendations for road safety professionals in low and middle income countries. Patrick, if you could take that one.
Yeah, thank you, John. Actually, we don't really provide hands-on training due to our limited resources. We rely extensively on the work of our members of our committees, and they're not really equipped to provide hands-on training, I would say, on demand. What we do, though, is organize seminars in low and middle income countries. Each of our committees organize 2 seminars over a 4-year period. So to cut a long story short, for road safety, there will be 4 seminars on road safety from 2016 to 2019. That's significant, but that's not enough, I guess. That's not a lot in any way. So what we're trying to do is partner with some organizations to organize training sessions, hands-on training sessions on road safety using reports, using our online manual for specific areas of the world. And well, it's not confirmed yet, but it's likely we'll be able to organize road safety training sessions in Asia, thanks to the work being done by ARB in Australia and the regional association called IEEE. But if you have such requests or expectations, even though the baseline is that it's difficult for us to accommodate that, contact us at info@piarc.org and we would see what we could do. Thank you, John.
All right, and Perry Anderson, this is a question for you. You showed statistics from the Far East. Do you have any statistics from the Middle East or other parts of the East?
Not at the moment. I don't. Sorry.
No worries. Then let's see. Whatever. Let's go to a question that I saw up here. You know, so this will be. Some scholars say on the road there is always the chance of a crash, that we're never going to get to zero. It's nearly impossible to prevent this. How would you comment on this? Well, that's true. In many countries, we're moving towards a zero fatality type of target, Vision Zeros, for instance, in Sweden, Target Zero in my state, in Washington. One of the things I say is that I will guarantee you that we will not get to zero if we do not try to get to zero. So that's the first thing that I typically respond. To the extent that we have the ability to change and reduce fatal and serious crashes, we should exercise that. And we believe that the safe system approach is one way to do that, to bring in the vehicle, to bring in the human, and to bring in the road infrastructure to try to address the different fatal and contributing crash causes. So would any of my panelists like to add to that?
I can do, Pat here. I really support what you're saying. If you not really put effort into going for the goal, you will never reach any goal. And of course, there are several tools you can use to sort of going for this zero vision or safe system. But you have to sort of raise the goal every time, because every crash, every fatality is something you should avoid. So I support you should really go for it, and you cannot manage what you do not measure. So you have to measure it, you have to put it up on the table, see it as a problem and work on it. So you have to do it every time, every day on the year to work for a sort of to reduce the fatalities and crashes and like that. Thank you.
Okay, here is a technical question. What kind of statistical approach do you recommend when the data available to identify the contributing factors of accidents are limited? Binary, logistic, regression, multinomial regression. I can hand that one off to the professor. Lorenzo, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Lorenzo speaking. When you don't have so many data, I think that the knowledge of the human factor aspect can be really very helpful. I mean, if you don't have data, you can go to on-site and making some safety inspections of the road. And if you go with looking at human factor problems, you will find the situation where critical safety problems can occur. In fact, there has been a project that has been a research project that has been implemented in Germany. Within each, they decided to have a blind review. I mean, to the expert of human factors has been given two different situations without explaining them which was the accident-prone situation between the two that were considered. And in 80% of time, the experts of human factor found consider more critical the situation where accidents were more frequent. So if you don't have data, go on site and look at the situation of the road environment from a human factor point of view, and you can have the answers of your questions.
Excellent. I'm going to guide this question to Per, and also Lorenzo, if you could jump in if you have a thought process as well. What extent does pedestrian perception, is it important in pedestrian safety while shared areas are considered? So to what extent pedestrian perception is important in pedestrian safety in shared areas?
Can you explain to me what shared areas are?
So where there's bicyclists, pedestrians, vehicles.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's important, and as I was showing in my slides, we are trying to sort of go for getting even the single trip, falls, and pedestrian into official statistics, because if you don't see it as a problem, you will not make any actions really to go for to decrease the number of tripping pedestrians. So we're actually trying to challenge our politicians in a way that we can sort of getting that as a table in order to focus on how to construct the infrastructure, how to guide the shared environments due to sort of how to get access and sort of for the different kind of modes. So we're really trying to look into this and to get it on the table in order to decrease the large amount of both fatalities and injured in the transportation system. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick, I'm going to guide this question to you. In many third world countries, or I'd say in many lower income countries, the legal system is relatively weak. What is PIARC's role as a global outreach organization to help with policy and procedures with politicians and make understanding critical issues important to them?
Well, thank you, John. Outreach is one of our key missions. So this is why we have those seminars, for example, in some low and middle income countries, to go there as a group of international experts and present the knowledge that has been built over the years, that has been confirmed through the working of all these experts together, and share that with decision makers, politicians, minister officials in those countries, the host country in particular, so that they can get a better understanding of all the options and solutions and, well, technologies, processes, strategies such as zero death, zero vision, for example, so that they get to grasp on this and maybe decide to follow them. That's really hands-on. The webinar that we're having now, of course, it's only in one language, English, but maybe we could do similar things in other languages. It also goes in the same direction. But of course, at the end of the day, we cannot force the government in country A or country B to adjust, of course. Thank you.
All right. So here's a question that I had for Lorenzo that maybe you could help clear up. The question is, so distraction and fatigue are not considered as human factors at all, is that correct?
Distraction and fatigue is not a human factor problem. Distraction is something that it's a temporary situation, while a human factor aspect refers to a stable way to reasoning, a stable way to react. It does not take care about temporary situations, and so distraction by looking at the cell phone or something like that is not a human factor problem. Fatigue instead can be considered in some cases a human factor problem when fatigue is due to overloading of the driver with informations. This is something that is refers to a physical, a physiological situation. The driver cannot keep and so many information. They do not have time to analyze them, and so in trying to improve their ability of understanding the information coming from the road, that can reduce their attention due to fatigue. And so this is a human factor problem.
Okay. And if I could ask you a follow-up question, Lorenzo, this has become more and more important, I think, and I've heard this in a number of different places as well. How do you see autonomous vehicles on the road changing the human factors issue at all? Do you see that there's going to be impacts? So what are you thinking?
Well, this is a very interesting and debated thing. I mean that if you look at human factor, you have to skip level 3 of the SAI classification of automatic evolution of the road. I mean, perhaps I don't think that the technology will be affected by optical illusions, and so if a fully automated vehicle perhaps is something that can improve safety. But if you require the driver when the vehicle drives by its own equipments without requiring the intervention of the drivers, and the drivers will distract, if the vehicle will require to require the driver to decide something, the driver will be distracted, and researchers says perhaps to be aware about the situation, it keeps something like 30-40 seconds, and so this is not possible, and so there is a lot of debate looking at this. Perhaps fully automated vehicles can solve the problem, but how to arrive to that situation, including more and more technology in the vehicles, will always have to face human factors aspects. Thank you.
Okay. I'll take this question. Is there anything in the PIARC road safety manual to clarify responsibility of lead agencies? Yes, there's a discussion about roles and responsibilities in the road safety manual, but clearly who leads and how that organizational structure is set up is individual to the individual countries, but there does need to be strong leadership at all levels, whether it be legislative, executive within an organization, or even within team structures of technical representatives. So very good question. Let's see here. What safety aspects do you recommend considering definition of cycling potential, let's see, of a cycling potential map of road network, since cyclists are considered to be vulnerable road users? So what aspects do you recommend considering in the definition of a cycling road network? Per, would you like to take a shot at that question?
Thank you for the question, but I'm not sure I really understand the question. But that's, of course, as we are discussing how to sort of make it safer, is of course the how to design the cycle path and how to actually make them safer by putting pedestrian on one side and cyclists and vehicles on the other side, and also by doing the crossings even better with lights or whatever, or if it's a big crossing, make it underpath, whatever. And the third thing is, the second thing is, of course, the use of helmets. Mm-hmm. It's a very important question that will reduce at least the seriously injured and the fatalities. And of course, we have a sort of decrease in cycling with a young age today because parents are putting the children in the car for the school, something like that. And we would like to get back to a time where you start to make a safe environment so that children can learn how to go riding with a bike safe early on.
Right. And, you know, I'd add a couple of points to that as well, is that we found what's important in cycling networks is to identify gaps in linkages between cities. For instance, narrow shoulders, there's not enough shoulder to ride on, or a separated bike path, or whatever it might be, to try to identify and correct those issues that you see from a safety perspective. There also may be locations where there's not alternative routes, and to identify across the network if there are safer or less safe type facilities that might be helpful.
Well, I can add to one thing. I forgot about one very important thing, of course, the maintenance of the surfaces. With gravel, loose gravel, you have potholes. And in Sweden, we have, of course, during wintertime, we have ice and snow that has to be removed. So, of course, the maintenance of these surfaces is really important, both for pedestrians and for cyclists.
So, Patrick, I'm going to ask you this question because there's a number of different questions that are coming in about potentially doing these presentations in different languages. Is this something that PIARC might consider, maybe a French presentation or a Spanish presentation or whatever it might be?
Well, thank you, John. Well, why not? For those of you who are not familiar with PIARC, this is probably one of the first webinars ever that we've organized. So this was an experience for us. So we still have to learn from that, and this is why we chose to chose the easy option to have only one language and avoided simultaneous translation or anything of the sort. But why not? Clearly, if there is interest in doing the same thing in French or Spanish, and if we can identify speakers who would be able to express themselves in those languages, yes, certainly. I would also like to add that all our reports, at least most of them, are available in French, English, and Spanish, just like our magazine. So if you go to our website, on the top right corner, you can select the language of the website, and then you can select, you can look for material, reports, proceedings in French, English, or Spanish. And most of our reports are available in French and Spanish as well. Thank you, John.
Thank you. All right. Patrick, I might guide this one back to you. Is safety of road areas under construction maintenance addressed in any of the manuals or technical reports that are available within PIARC? Are you aware of any?
Yeah, I think it's been studied in the past. So sorry, what you're hearing now is my keyboard. When I'm checking this. There has been work on at PIARC on work zones. Definitely has been. I recently saw a news brief from IRF Global, I think, based in Washington, on this. And what I will do, it will take 1 or 2 minutes, so I don't want to do this now, is look for that and share that with all participants through the TRB system, if that's possible.
Yep. Lorenzo, a question. Are you aware of any design visualization tools that can be used for determining human factors related issues or understanding what the human might see?
Okay, the 3D visualization of the improvement that can be included within the road to understand if a better consideration of human factors can solve the problems is for sure a very useful tool. We are starting with a couple of years. We are at the university studying the influence of the safety countermeasures that can be included within urban roads or also on motorway. We had an experiment looking at how to improve safety of work zones, and the use of driving simulator is very useful to understand how much the improvement that can be considered taking care of human factors aspects can be useful for improving the reactions of the drivers. So I think that this is something that can be helpful in understanding the situation, and mainly how to improve the situation of an existing road. Thank you.
John, I've just found a report that we published some years ago on road safety on work zones, and I've shared that with everyone as an answer to a question that was unrelated. Sorry, but so that everyone has the link now.
Okay. The question, I think, in general to all of us, is there any strong evidence related to approach speed, speed variance, and visibility at intersections? How can we explain red light running related crashes? Well, I'll go ahead and try to answer that, and I think I accidentally just sent that to you, Patrick. But you know, there is different research essentially on all those issues that you can download and find on the internet. The impact of speed on crashes in different locations and for different road users is pretty extensive. We see, for instance, with vulnerable road users, higher speeds lead to higher severity crashes. In other cases, we don't see that it really necessarily always has an impact on the frequency of crashes. So I hope that's enough to answer that question. And just a time check, Elaine, how much more time do we have left in the webinar?
We have 2 more minutes, so I think we have time for one more question.
All right, and so the last question would be, I'm going to go ahead and lead this to Patrick. Patrick, what can people do, and I think you've hit on this a little bit earlier, but what can people do to become more involved in PIARC or to come to PIARC to get more information to you about what their particular road needs are? For instance, we want to use road safety manual or something to that aspect. Could you maybe answer some of that for me, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, John. This sort of question obviously is really, really welcome. At PIARC, we try to be an international, worldwide organization. So it's not only about the US, Italy, Sweden, and France. So thank you for that question. If you want to contribute, for example, what you could do is, well, share with us, PIARC, what the situation in your countries are through case studies, for example. The topics we are working on currently on road safety, such as vulnerable road users, credible speed limits, and the sort, they are all part of our strategic plan. That's public, that can be found on our website. If in your country, I would say Ghana, Malaysia, Peru, anywhere, if you want to tell us how it's being addressed in your country, contact us. That's very interesting, so that we can build on that and those experiences and develop our recommendations. That's number one. Share stuff with us. Number two is, well, you may want to host a seminar in your country. These are usually 100 to 200 people participant events. They have to be approved locally by the road administration, not for formality, but because organizing an event like that is quite a bit of an effort, and it's important to know that there's an organization that will support it, actually. In case of doubt, contact us and we will act as go-betweens. And the road safety manual in itself is pretty self-explanatory. It's a website, it's quite interactive. You have a search box for keywords, actually any word you want to use, but we hope it's self-sustaining as well. But if you want to contact us, there's a contact box there, and you can ask us any question you would like us to do. What we don't usually do, though, is focus on a specific given case in country A that would tell us, I have an issue here on that road, PIARC, can you help? Because that's a little bit detailed, and this is a type of work that is best done at a national or regional level. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Elaine?
Thank you to John, Patrick, Per, and Lorenzo for your presentations and discussion, especially since, John, it's very early for you, and Patrick, Per, and Lorenzo, it's quite late for you, so thank you for your time. Thank you also to the audience for joining us today. When you sign out of this session, we encourage you to take a brief evaluation regarding your experience. We use these evaluations to improve our webinar program, so your feedback is greatly appreciated. Also, a reminder that this webinar has been recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording in a few days, along with another link to the slides if you didn't see that before. Have a great afternoon, or evening, or morning, and we hope that you could join us again for future TRB webinars. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. Bye-bye.